Hi there. If you clicked on this link looking for information to use Emacs to write LaTeX documents, oops, this video isn't about that. Although Emacs does that quite well. The Octex suite is a complete solution for creating LaTeX PDFs, and there's a whole ecosystem of packages on top of that for your miscellaneous LaTeX needs in Emacs. Many papers, monographs, theses, and books have been written this way. But you don't need me to tell you that. Between dozens of articles, instructional videos, and the excellent Octex manual itself, I'd say you're covered in that department. This video is actually about the exact opposite process. It's about using LaTeX inside Emacs documents. Let me explain. So, let's get org mode out of the way first. Yes, it's to Emacs what Emacs is to your operating system, a big old kitchen sink full of gadgets. Org mode is your calendar, your planner, your spreadsheet, your publishing engine, your literate program, your personal wiki, your plain text database, and you can probably use it to do your taxes. But the aspect of org mode that we're interested in today is that it understands some parts of the LaTeX markup natively and can preview chunks of it inside Emacs. In a previous video I made, over an year ago, I demoed some quality of life changes planned for LaTeX previews. One of the things we're planning to add is the ability for the previews to update live, as you type. In Emacs, as in life, shorter feedback loops are always better, especially once the thing you're working on is big enough that you can't hold all of it in your head. Nothing sucks the life out of iterating on a task more than frequent delays. Live LaTeX previews make the process of editing technical, that is, mathy documents in org mode, a much more pleasant affair. This live preview business is on top of the other improvements that are planned. LaTeX previews are going to be much faster, non-blocking, blend in with the Emacs theme, update automatically, be numbered accurately, and so on. And of course, all you need is LaTeX to be installed on your system. As for why it's not out yet, let's move on, shall we? But wait, this video isn't about LaTeX previews in org mode either. I already made that one. That feature is the entree, and it's still cooking. We're here today for the appetizers, a platter of, hopefully, unexpected delights. The idea is simple. LaTeX is just text, and LaTeX previews are just overlays placed on text. What's special about org mode here? The answer, of course, is quite a bit. Among other things, many middle-aged computer scientists, Emacs core user base I'm told, have modified org mode extensively over the decades to be able to include LaTeX seamlessly, so that org, in some sense, understands LaTeX better than other unrelated major modes do. But it's not as hopeless as you might think. And here's why. It's time to steal org's thunder. I've made it so that you can call org LaTeX preview, the main preview command, outside of org mode. We're going to need a demo or two to understand what that implies. Here's a Julia buffer solving a somewhat non-trivial control engineering problem. It's just a toy example, but wouldn't it be nice if you could just type in what problem this function solves? There we go, much nicer. While we're at it, we can preview LaTeX in the rest of this buffer by calling org LaTeX preview. Of course, all of this is still text. Everything in Emacs is text, decorations like this preview notwithstanding. Now it turns out, for reasons I'll mention near the end, that there's nothing particularly special about Emacs' support for Julia here. Here's a MATLAB file where I'll call org LaTeX preview again for some live previews. As expected, these are live and update as you type. The way all of these are set up is that any LaTeX markup you type inside a comment or a string and inside LaTeX mat delimiters is recognized and previewed automatically. These previews have the same affordances as the ones in org mode. They blend in with their surroundings, update live as you type, and so on. And now for something completely different. You're probably aware that Emacs has a built-in calculator. And what self-respecting text editor doesn't? But Emacs' calculator is special, in the way that a socially awkward savant is, capable of mind-bending feats, but quite strange to interact with. For our demo, let's type in some numbers and grab this rectangle into the calculator. Conveniently, calc turned the rectangle into a matrix, which is just what we wanted. Now we're cooking. We can LU factorize it to get a permutation, a lower and upper triangular matrix, and we can multiply them all back together to get back the original. I can invert the matrix, multiply it with the original to get eventually the identity. Oh, hang on. I just realized that you have no idea what I'm doing here because calc uses arcane incantations that you can't see me type in. So here we go. A little menu I cooked up as a visual aid. Calc acts on elements in this stack, and I called the LU factorization routine down here, and then unpacked the result into 3 component matrices that you see here. Multiplying them with the asterisk key gives us back the original matrix. I inverted the matrix this way and then multiplied it the normal way. But we're not done. In fact, this is now a video about the Emacs calculator. Too bad, you're in it now. So of course, calc does simple things like matrix and vector algebra and elementary calculus. I'm going to square this matrix and then integrate it against the variable k. That looks sort of complicated. So let's assume k is small and get a Taylor series with the first few terms. Now calc won't add up these terms because it doesn't know what kind of thing k is. So let's assure calc that k is a scalar and then simplify it. So now we have a matrix approximation of the original matrix function. Let's find its determinant and factor it. This is a polynomial and calc knows how to find its roots. So let's ask for it. And it gives us that vector of solutions, which I'm next going to transpose so I can take a better look at it and confirm that they add up to 0 by reducing with the plus operator. Okay, that was pretty basic stuff. What's delightful about calc is that it understands things like ranges and error propagation. A range is an interval of the real line, like a set from A to B. If we then apply the sine function to this, calc knows that it's mapped from the infinite domain down to just -1 to 1. Let's be a little more creative. We're going to grab this matrix of intervals into calc and double it. That updated the intervals correctly. Simple enough. Let's square it though. And yep, calc handles mixed matrix and interval algebra correctly. The same is true for other data types calc understands. If you use the plus minus operator, calc handles it as an error form. So here we have x plus minus a fifth times I, the imaginary number. If we now find its natural log, or one of its branches anyway, calc handles the uncertainty correctly, propagating errors using the derivative. Let's do that again, but this time apply some other analytic function, like the sine, for example. When we simplify that, we see that we have a cosine in there because of the uncertainty, as you would expect. Multiplying the two gives us the base value and the new uncertainty. I'd say we've breached the tip of the calc iceberg, but really we haven't even left port yet. Combinatorics, probability distributions, unit conversions, date and time zone calculations, binary arithmetic, plotting, and a whole lot more. Calc does it all. And buckle in, because we're going to go through each of these in great... Oh, wait a minute. What was my point again? Oh, right. The Emacs calculator can now render LaTeX output. Okay, that little detour got out of hand. In fact, the main reason I try not to talk about the Emacs calculator is that I wouldn't talk about anything else then. Having escaped that trap though, we can now bring up the big Greek alphabet in the room, LaTeX-mode itself. Well, that's pretty easy to support, even if it's a bit of a performance hit for reasons I'll talk about soon. I find that this is actually the least interesting application for the expanded LaTeX preview feature because Octech has provided in-buffer previews of LaTeX environments in Emacs for ages now. In fact, it was one of the inspirations for this whole body of work. This older preview library is time-tested, stable, and continues to be actively maintained by the Octech developers. On the other hand, it doesn't provide live previews, and live previews are just kind of nice, you know. They're a guiding light if you find yourself in the middle of a messy 20-line math environment, which happens to me suspiciously often now that I think about it. But moving on. Semi-universal LaTeX preview capability turns out to be useful in unexpected places. It's not proved useful in EWW, Emacs's built-in web browser, because most websites that have math formulas in them either show SVG images, which Emacs can display natively, or they require JavaScript to function at all, and so they don't even show up. But here are two examples. The first is lfeed, an RSS feed reader for Emacs. Many academic and technical feeds have LaTeX fragments in them. Archive abstracts are a prime example. One call to org LaTeX preview and we're sorted. The second is the Read It Later client I use to store and read web pages. This semi-technical article on octonions has bits of math sprinkled throughout, and having LaTeX previews at hand gives me one fewer reason to leave Emacs. So, how does it work in several major modes? It's just a separation of concerns. Starting with the expansive org mode version, it turns out that once you've collected the fragments you want to generate previews for, running LaTeX, processing the outputs, and placing the images is completely independent of org mode. So all each major mode needs to provide is a very rudimentary parser that the LaTeX preview generator can call on to collect LaTeX fragments and associated metadata. This is quite easy to do. Here's the entirety of the code needed to adapt org LaTeX preview to my Read It Later client from before. It's only about 20 lines and most of these functions are stubs. We then let the org LaTeX preview library know that we've got a handler for this particular major mode and we're done. Of course, this design is just a prototype right now, but that's the general idea. Okay, so when's it coming out? Yeah, about that. So org mode is a big project with a lot of moving parts and backward compatibility guarantees. And there's like 2 of us working on this LaTeX preview rewrite. I'd say we're about 80% of the way there, so there's only the other 80% left to do. But if you can't wait and don't mind living on the edge where things break occasionally, I've included a link in the description to help you hook your Emacs up to this development branch of org. More testing is always welcome. Okay, this is a question that comes up now and then. It goes like this. LaTeX is cool and all, but it's a dinosaur. What about previews for typst, the new hotness? There are already packages for previewing typst documents in Emacs, but that's not the kind of Emacs-wide preview system we're talking about here. You know, I think making one for typst is going to be an easier job since typst, unlike LaTeX, is a modern program and ships with great inter-process communication support. Thanks to this project, there's also more scaffolding in place now for adding a typst everywhere feature to org mode or Emacs. But man, I'm tired. Typst is a project for another year. Or, you know, it could be a project for you. Okay, that's all I've got for you. To those of us who live in Emacs, having LaTeX rendering everywhere is super handy. And perhaps you like it too. Now, about calc. Did you know it uses several methods from the art of computer programming in its random number generator? It's really complicated.